Step into the shadows with me, where forbidden knowledge awaits. This is the law they never wanted you to know.
He made us so afraid that even breathing felt wrong. Under his command, death would have been a gift, but he wouldn't let us die. He needed us alive, alive to suffer. I remember the day he came. The sky was grey that morning, heavy with smoke from the northern front. We'd been fighting for 3 months straight, holding the line against the greenskin advance, pushing them back, meter by meter. We were tired, bloody, but we were holding. Our old commander, Colonel Varus, he understood us. He knew we were human. He knew we had limits. He pushed us hard, yes, but he didn't break us. Then the transport arrived. I heard it before I saw it. The roar of engines cutting through the morning air, the hiss of thrusters as it descended. It landed on the parade ground in a cloud of dust. Exhaust fumes rolled across us as we stood at attention. The ramp dropped with a metallic clang, and he stepped out. Commander Helvek, that was his name. I'll never forget it. Tall, broad-shouldered, medals covering his chest. His uniform was perfect, immaculate, not a speck of dust, not a crease, like he'd never seen a battlefield in his life. His face was hard, angular, eyes like chips of ice, cold, calculating, looking at us like we were numbers on a data slate. Behind him came his retinue, 6 enforcers in black armor, stormtroopers, maybe, or something worse. They carried shock mauls and bolt pistols. Their visors were down, faceless. They moved like machines, precise, synchronized. Colonel Varus stepped forward to greet him. I could see the confusion on Varus's face. No one had told him a new commander was coming. No warning, no notification, just this. Helvich didn't salute, didn't extend his hand. He just pulled out a data slate and started reading. His voice was amplified through a voxcaster on his collar. It boomed across the parade ground, echoing off the hab blocks around us. By order of the Departamento Munitorum, he began, Colonel Varus is hereby relieved of command. Effective immediately. Charge, gross incompetence, strategic failures, insufficient discipline. Varus's face went pale. Commander, I don't understand. Silence, Helvik snapped. His voice was sharp, like a lass round. Your understanding is not required. Your obedience is. He gestured to his enforcers. They moved forward, grabbed Varus by the arms. The colonel didn't resist, just looked at us with wide, frightened eyes, like he wanted to say something, to warn us, but he was dragged away before he could speak. We never saw him again. Helvech turned to face us, all 800 of us standing in formation, the 47th Valdarian Guard, veterans of a dozen campaigns, survivors of horrors most civilians couldn't imagine, and he looked at us like we were trash. This regiment, he said slowly, is a disgrace. The word hit like a slap. Your casualty rates are unacceptable. Your advance metrics are below standard. Your morale scores indicate weakness. He started pacing along the front rank, his boots clicking on the ferrocrete. I have reviewed your operational reports. I have studied your tactical decisions, and I am appalled. He stopped in front of a sergeant, a good man, 20 years of service. Helvesh stared at him for a long moment. Tell me, Sergeant, what is your purpose? The sergeant stammered. To serve the Emperor, sir. Wrong. Helvek's hand moved faster than I could follow. He backhanded the sergeant across the face. The crack echoed across the parade ground. The sergeant stumbled but didn't fall. Blood trickled from his split lip. Your purpose, Helvek said coldly, is to obey. Without question, without hesitation. Your purpose is to die when I tell you to die. Your purpose is to kill when I tell you to kill. Nothing more, nothing less. He turned back to address all of us. Under my command, there will be order. There will be discipline. There will be results. Failure will not be tolerated. Weakness will not be excused. Disobedience will be punished with immediate execution. The parade ground was silent. Not even the wind made a sound. You will note, Helvesh continued, That new protocols are already being posted. His enforcers moved through the ranks, affixing printed notices to the message boards. Curfew is now 2,100 hours, not 2,200. Rations are reduced by 20% to eliminate waste. Morning formation begins at 0400 hours, not 0500. All leaves are cancelled indefinitely. All personal belongings will be inspected daily. All communications off-world are suspended. Each new rule felt like a weight being added to my chest, making it harder to breathe. Furthermore, he said, a list of violations and their corresponding punishments is now in effect. Study it well. Ignorance of these rules will not serve as a defense. He paused. Let his words sink in. Some of you are wondering about Colonel Varus. Some of you may question my authority. Let me be clear. He pulled his bolt pistol from its holster. The weapon gleamed in the grey morning light. I do not answer to you. You answer to me, and through me, to the Imperium. If you have concerns, take them to your emperor. I'm sure he'll listen. The sarcasm in his voice was like acid. He holstered the weapon. Dismissed. Report to your assigned duties. Any guardsmen not at their post in 15 minutes will be shot for dereliction. We broke formation, not in the usual orderly way, but in a scramble, a panic. Everyone rushing to wherever they were supposed to be. I ran back to the barracks with my squad. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking. What just happened? Private Kalen asked. His voice was high, frightened. Shut up, Sergeant Milik hissed. Don't talk about it. Don't even think about it. Just do what you're told. We reached the barracks. I went to my bunk. Started checking my gear, making sure everything was in order. My lasgun, my flak armor, my kit, all of it had to be perfect now. Any imperfection could mean death. The door burst open. One of Helvek's enforcers stood in the doorway, his shock maul crackling with energy. Inspection, he announced. Everyone stand by their bunks. We scrambled into position. The enforcer walked down the line slowly, checking each of us with cold, mechanical precision. He stopped at Private Torin's bunk, picked up Torin's canteen. This is dented, the enforcer said. Sir, it's from combat. Torin started. The shock maul hit him in the ribs. Torin went down hard, gasping. Unacceptable equipment condition, the enforcer stated. 5 lashes. Report to the disciplinary yard at 1,800 hours. He moved on like nothing had happened. Torin lay on the floor, wheezing. None of us helped him. We were too afraid to move. The inspection continued. The enforcer found violations everywhere. A loose button, a scuffed boot, a wrinkled blanket. Each one earned punishment. Lashes, extra duty, ration reductions. When he finally left, we all exhaled, like we'd been holding our breath the entire time. This is insane, someone whispered. This is the Imperium, Sergeant Melik said quietly. Get used to it. That night, I couldn't sleep. The barracks were too quiet. Usually there was talking, laughter sometimes, the sounds of soldiers trying to maintain some humanity. Now there was only silence, heavy, oppressive, like the air itself was afraid to make noise. I lay in my bunk staring at the ceiling, thinking about Colonel Varus, about the sergeant who got slapped, about Torin writhing on the floor, all in one day. One day. What would the next weeks bring? What would the next months bring? I didn't know, but I felt it in my bones, a cold certainty settling deep inside me. My life had just changed. Everything I thought I knew about service, about duty, about survival, all of it was wrong now. Under Helvesh, there were new rules written in fear and blood, and if I wanted to live, I would have to learn them quickly. The sun came up at 0400 hours. We were already standing in formation. Helvech appeared exactly on time. He walked along our ranks. His face showed no emotion. Better, he said simply. You're learning. Continue to learn. Or continue to suffer. He gestured to his enforcers. They dragged out 3 guardsmen. I recognized them from another company. These men, Helvesh announced, were late to formation by 30 seconds. They have been punished. The guardsmen were barely standing. Their faces were swollen, bruised. Blood stained their uniforms. Whatever they'd endured, it had been thorough. Let this be a lesson, Helvik said. Time is a resource. Do not waste it. Dismissed. We dispersed again, this time even faster than before. I went to my assigned post, a watch station on the eastern perimeter. 4 hours of standing guard, watching for enemy movement. But I wasn't watching the enemy. I was watching the compound behind me, watching Helvek's enforcers patrol, watching them drag guardsmen away for unknown violations, watching the fear spread like a disease. My shift ended. I was relieved by Private Dace. He looked exhausted, terrified. Has it been like this all morning? He asked. I nodded. It's going to get worse, I said. I know, he replied. And somehow, we both did know. This wasn't just a change in command. This was something else, something darker. Helvesh wasn't here to lead us to victory. He was here to break us, to grind us down until we were nothing but obedient machines. And the worst part? The Imperium had sent him, had authorized this, had given him total authority over our lives. There would be no appeal, no rescue, no hope, just obedience. Obedience or death. And sometimes, I suspected, obedience and death, because men like Helvich, they didn't just want compliance, they wanted suffering. They fed on it, like some kind of predator, and we were the prey, trapped in his domain, with nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, just waiting for our turn to be inspected, to be found wanting, to be punished. That first day felt like a year. Every hour stretched out endlessly, filled with tension and dread. By the time 2100 hours came, by the time the new curfew forced us back to barracks, we were all exhausted, not from work, from fear, from constantly being on edge, from knowing that any moment could bring violence. I collapsed onto my bunk. My body ached. My mind raced. I closed my eyes, tried to find some peace, but all I could see was Helvek's face, those cold, dead eyes, staring at me, judging me, finding me insufficient. I opened my eyes again. Sleep wasn't coming. Not tonight. Maybe not ever again. Not under his command. Not under his reign of terror. This was my new reality. This was what service meant now. Not glory. Not honor. Just survival. Day by day. Hour by hour. Trying not to be noticed. Trying not to become the next example. The next lesson in obedience. The next body dragged away. I lay there in the darkness, listening to the quiet sobs of other guardsmen, men who'd fought aliens and heretics without breaking, now reduced to tears by one of their own commanders. This was the Imperium. This was the reality they don't tell you about. When they recruit you with promises of purpose, they don't mention the cruelty, the arbitrary violence, the commanders who see you as nothing, less than nothing, just numbers to be optimized, resources to be expended, tools to be used and discarded. I understood that now, finally, completely. And that understanding was more terrifying than any enemy I'd ever faced, because at least with enemies, you know where you stand. You know who wants you dead. But here your own leadership wanted you destroyed. Not killed, destroyed, broken down to nothing, remade into something inhuman, something that would obey without thought, without feeling, without question. That's what Helvich wanted, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified, that he might succeed. The first mission briefing came 3 days later. We were assembled in the command bunker, all squad leaders and officers. I was there as acting second for my squad. Sergeant Melik had been reassigned. No explanation given, just gone. Helvich stood at the front, a tactical map projected on the wall behind him. "Gentlemen," he began. The words sounded wrong in his mouth, like he didn't believe we were worthy of it. Our orders are simple. He pointed to a section of the map. The enemy has fortified this industrial sector. Intelligence suggests 3,000 hostiles. Mixed cultists and traitor militia. We will assault at dawn. Break their line. Secure the sector. Any questions? I stared at the map. Something was wrong with it. The scale looked off. The terrain markers didn't match our previous surveys. Lieutenant Krasin raised his hand hesitantly. Sir, those coordinates. That sector was surveyed last week. The terrain is different. More defensive positions. And intelligence suggested 5,000 hostiles, not 3. Helvek's eyes locked onto Krasin. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Are you questioning the accuracy of my intelligence? No, sir. Are you suggesting that I cannot read a map? Sir, I only meant. Helvek pulled his bolt pistol. The sound of it leaving the holster was deafening in the silence. He pointed it at Krasin's head. I do not tolerate doubt, he said softly. Doubt is the seed of failure. Failure is treason. Treason is death. Krasin went perfectly still. His face was white, bloodless. Do you doubt me, Lieutenant? No, sir, Krasin whispered. Louder. No, sir. Helvek held the gun there for another 5 seconds, then holstered it. Good. Anyone else have concerns? Silence. No one was even breathing. Excellent. Your attack assignments are being distributed now. His enforcers moved through the room, handing out data slates. I looked at mine. My squad was assigned to the first wave. Direct frontal assault on the primary fortifications. No armor support, no artillery preparation, just us. Our lasguns. And the Emperor's blessing. I looked at the estimated casualties. 70%. 70% losses expected. And that was listed as acceptable. You have 6 hours to prepare, Helvek said. Brief your men. Check your equipment. At dawn, you will attack. You will not retreat. You will not hesitate. You will take that sector or die trying. He paused. Preferably both. He dismissed us with a wave. We filed out of the bunker. No one spoke until we were outside. Then Lieutenant Vayan turned to the rest of us. This is suicide, he said quietly. He's sending us to die. Then we die. Another officer said. What choice do we have? We could what? I interrupted. Refuse? Mutiny? He'd execute us before we finished the sentence. Vayan clenched his fists. So we just accept it? We just march to our deaths? We're guardsmen, I said. That's what we do. It sounded hollow even as I said it. But it was true. We had no power here, no agency, just orders. Orders written in blood. Our blood. I went back to my squad, gathered them together. 11 men and women, good soldiers. My friends, some I'd served with for years. Now I had to tell them they were going to die. We have a mission, I began. My voice was steady, calm. I explained the objective, the enemy positions, the attack plan. I left out the casualty estimates. They'd figure it out soon enough. Private Venn raised his hand. Sergeant, it sounds bad, I know, but these are our orders. We follow orders. That's all we can do. The squad dispersed to prepare. I sat on my bunk, head in my hands, trying to find some way to save them, some tactic, some strategy. But there was nothing. Helvek's plan was designed to fail, or rather, designed to expend us, to throw bodies at the problem until it was solved. We weren't soldiers to him. We were ammunition. The night passed too quickly. Dawn came like an execution. We assembled in the staging area. 3 companies, 900 guardsmen, all of us knowing what was coming. Helvek appeared on a raised platform. The Emperor watches you today, he announced. Show him you are worthy of his gaze. Show him you can die with dignity. For the Emperor, for the Emperor, we echoed. The words felt like ashes in my mouth. The transport trucks arrived. We loaded in, packed tight. The ride to the assault point took 20 minutes. No one spoke, just the rumble of engines, the rattle of equipment, the sound of men preparing to die. We dismounted in a bombed-out plaza. The industrial sector loomed ahead. Massive buildings, twisted metal, perfect defensive terrain. And somewhere in there, thousands of enemies, waiting to kill us. The Vox crackled. Helvek's voice. All units, advance. Do not stop. Do not retreat. Victory or death. The whistle blew. We moved forward, out of cover. Into the open. La Sfera erupted immediately. The enemy had been waiting. Knew we were coming. The air filled with las rounds and bullets. The man beside me went down. Throat torn open. Blood spraying. I kept moving. Couldn't stop. Couldn't help him. Just forward. Always forward. More guardsmen fell. 10, 20, 50. We weren't even halfway to the first building, and we were being slaughtered. I dove behind a wrecked vehicle. 3 others joined me. We returned fire blindly, trying to suppress the enemy positions. It wasn't working. We need to fall back. Someone shouted. Regroup. No retreat. The Vox barked. Advance or be shot for cowardice. I looked back. Helvek's enforcers were behind us, bolt pistols drawn, aimed at us. We were trapped. Enemy fire ahead, execution behind. The only way was forward, into the meat grinder. I rose, charged, screaming, firing, made it another 20 meters, found cover again, looked around. Half my squad was gone, just gone, dead or dying in the plaza. The enemy fire intensified. Heavy stubbers now, tearing through armor and flesh. We couldn't advance, couldn't hold, couldn't retreat. We were being annihilated. Then the Vox clicked again. All units, push forward. Immediate advance required. Authorization for suppressing fire denied. You have sufficient numbers. Sufficient numbers. He meant sufficient bodies. Enough of us to die while others may be advanced. This wasn't tactics. This wasn't strategy. This was murder. Sanctioned. Officiel. Ordered. We advanced again. I lost track of time. Lost track of individuals. Just shapes falling. Blood spreading. Screams cut short. Somehow, we reached the first building. The survivors. Maybe 100 of us. Out of 900. We'd lost 800 guardsmen. In less than an hour. For one building, one objective, and there were dozens more ahead. Lieutenant Krasin was alive. Barely. He was on the Vox. Command, we need reinforcements. We need support. We're at 10% strength. Request permission to consolidate. Denied. Helvek's voice came back. Continue the advance. You have sufficient numbers for the next objective. But sir, we continue. Or I will find officers who will. Krasin looked at us. His face was ashen. You heard him, he said quietly. Move out. We moved into the building, cleared it room by room. More casualties, more blood. By the time we reached the far side, 50 of us remained. 50 out of 900. And the mission was nowhere near complete. The Vox crackled. Acceptable progress, Helvek stated. Casualty rates within projected parameters. Continue to next objective. Projected parameters. He'd known this would happen, had planned for it, had accepted it. Our deaths were just numbers to him, data points on his tactical assessment. We kept fighting, kept dying, building by building, hour by hour. By midday, 20 of us remained. By afternoon, 12. By evening, 6. 6 survivors, out of 900. We held a partially collapsed warehouse, surrounded, running low on ammunition, wounded, exhausted. Command, this is Krasin, the lieutenant said. His voice was hoarse, broken, requesting extraction. We've achieved deep penetration. Enemy resistance is heavy. We need. Hold position, Helvek responded. Reinforcements are being dispatched. Eta 6 hours. 6 hours. We didn't have 6 hours. We'd be dead in 1. Sir, please, Hold your position, Lieutenant. That is an order. The Vox clicked off. Krasin hurled the handset against the wall. He's killing us, he said. Deliberately, methodically. He doesn't want victory. He wants us dead. Why? Private Venn asked. Why would he do this? No one had an answer. Maybe there wasn't one. Maybe this was just what happened. When the Imperium sent a monster to lead men, the night came. Enemy fire continued. Probing attacks every hour. We held them off. Barely. Our ammunition was almost gone. 2 guardsmen had died from their wounds. 4 of us remained. Me, Krasin, Venn, a woman named Tessa. We sat in the darkness, listening to the enemy moving outside, waiting for the final assault. I had a family, Tessa said suddenly. Wife, 2 daughters, joined up to give them a better life. She laughed bitterly. Guess that won't happen now. Don't talk like that, Venn said. Reinforcements are coming. We'll make it. But we all knew the truth. There were no reinforcements. Helvich had lied. Or maybe not lied. Maybe he just didn't care if we died waiting. The attack came at dawn. 50 cultists. Maybe more. We fought with everything we had. Laskins, knives, fists. Venn died first. Overrun. Tessa second. Shot through the head. Just Krasin and me. Back to back in a corner. Surrounded. Out of ammunition. Bleeding from a dozen wounds. It's been an honor, Krasin said. Likewise, sir. The cultists raised their weapons. Then las fire erupted from outside. Heavy. Concentrated. Imperial-less fire. The cultists turned. Confused. A full company burst through the walls. Fresh troops. Well armed. They cut through the enemy in minutes. We'd been saved. A sergeant approached us. Lieutenant Krasin? Yes. Orders to extract you. Return to command immediately. We were loaded onto a transport. Driven back to base. I was numb. Couldn't process what had happened. We'd survived. Somehow. Against everything. We survived. We arrived at the command bunker. Medics rushed forward. Started treating our wounds. Helvich appeared. He looked at us with those cold eyes. Lieutenant Krasin. Sergeant, you held for 8 hours. Longer than expected. Well done. Krasin stared at him. 900 men, he said hoarsely. 900 dead. For what? For the sector. We control it now. The mission was a success. Success. Krasin's voice rose. You murdered them. You sent us to die. Helvech's expression didn't change. I sent you to fight. The dying was your decision. He turned to his enforcers. Lieutenant Krasin is relieved of duty. Charges, insubordination, and cowardice. Execute him. What? No? The bolt pistol fired once. Krasin's head exploded. His body crumpled. Right there in front of the medics. In front of me. I stared at his corpse. Unable to move. Unable to think. As for you, Sergeant, Helvich said, you showed acceptable performance. You're promoted to lieutenant. Congratulations. He walked away, left me standing there, covered in blood, next to my dead commanding officer, the man I'd fought beside, executed, for questioning orders, for speaking truth, for being human. I understood then, fully, completely. This wasn't about winning the war. This was about control, about breaking us, about teaching us that our lives meant nothing, that obedience was everything, and that Helvich held absolute power, power to send us to die, power to save us at his whim, power to execute us for any reason, or no reason at all. That night, I lay in my new officer's quarters, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Krasin, about the 900 dead, about Helvech's cold smile, and I realized something. The enemy wasn't out there. The enemy was here, wearing Imperial insignia, giving Imperial orders, killing us in the Emperor's name. But I couldn't say that, couldn't even think it too loudly, because thought was dangerous here, truth was treasonous, and survival Survival meant becoming something I didn't recognize, something broken, something that would obey without question, even unto death, especially unto death, because that's what he wanted. That's what they all wanted. Our obedience, written in blood, our blood, always our blood. The days blurred together after the industrial sector. Each one was the same. Wake at 0400. Formation, inspection, duty. Every moment scheduled. Every action monitored. Helvex enforcers were everywhere, watching, waiting, looking for mistakes. The barracks became a prison, worse than a prison. At least prisoners know their sentence. We had no idea when this would end, or if it ever would. The inspections were the worst. They came at random hours, middle of the night sometimes. Enforcers would storm in, drag us from our bunks, make us stand at attention in our underclothes, while they searched everything, tore through our belongings, looking for contraband, violations, thought crime. Private Harron was caught with a letter from home. Personal correspondence was now forbidden. They beat him in front of us, shock mauls crackling against his ribs. His screams echoed in the barracks. No one helped. No one moved. We just watched. Learned the lesson. Keep nothing personal. Nothing human. Only what regulations allowed. The food got worse too. Rations cut by 30%. Helvech said it eliminated waste, built discipline. What it really did was keep us weak, hungry, distracted, harder to think when your stomach gnaws at itself, harder to resist when you're starving. Meals became a source of conflict. Guardsmen fighting over scraps, over extra portions, over anything. The enforcers would watch, let it happen, intervene only when it got too violent, then punish everyone involved. Collective punishment was Helvech's favorite tool. One man's mistake, the whole squad suffered. One squad's failure, the whole platoon suffered. It turned us against each other, made us police ourselves, made us enforcers of his cruelty. Because if you didn't report violations, if you didn't inform on your brothers, you'd be punished worse than they would. Trust died quickly. Friendships became dangerous. You couldn't confide in anyone, couldn't show weakness, couldn't be human. So we became machines, or tried to. But machines don't break down crying in the middle of the night. Machines don't wake up screaming from nightmares. Machines don't look at their lasgun and think about ending it. But we did. All of us. The sleep deprivation was deliberate. Helvech installed loudspeakers in every barracks. They played sermons, prayers, loyalty oaths, 24 hours a day, sometimes loud, sometimes quiet, but never silent, never letting us rest. The voice would boom through the darkness. The Emperor protects those who serve without question. Doubt is the first step toward damnation. Your life belongs to the Imperium. Surrender it gladly, over and over. Hour after hour, some men broke under it, started mumbling the sermons in their sleep, repeating them during the day, like they'd been programmed. Maybe they had been. Maybe that was the point. I learned to function on 3 hours of sleep, learned to ignore the exhaustion, the way your body feels like lead, the way your thoughts move through mud. You just pushed through, because stopping meant punishment. Weakness meant death. Corporal Thane fell asleep on watch, just for a moment, maybe 5 seconds. An enforcer caught him. They made an example, assembled the whole regiment, made us watch. Thane was tied to a post, stripped to the waist. An enforcer with a shock whip stood behind him. Dereliction of duty, Helvech announced. 20 lashes. The whip cracked. Thane screamed. The energy discharge burned as it cut, left blackened lines across his back. 20 times. By the 10th, Thane had passed out. They threw water on him, woke him up, continued. When it was over, his back was a ruin. Charred flesh, blood, exposed muscle. They dragged him to the Medicae. He survived. Barely, but he was never the same. I saw him sometimes in the halls, moving like a broken puppet, eyes vacant, distant. He'd been somewhere else during that punishment, and part of him never came back. The disciplinary ward was always full now. Guardsmen sent there for correction. Sometimes they came back, sometimes they didn't. The ones who did return wouldn't talk about it, couldn't talk about it. Whatever happened in there, it broke something fundamental. I knew a woman named Sergeant Kaya. Tough, experienced, reliable. She questioned an order during a briefing, politely, professionally, just asked for clarification. Helvek had her sent to the ward for 3 days. When she came back, she was different. Her eyes were hollow. Her hands shook constantly. She couldn't look anyone in the face. During the next briefing, Helvek asked her opinion. She just repeated his words back to him, verbatim, like a recording. He smiled. "Much better, Sergeant. You've learned well. What did they do to her in there? None of us knew. None of us wanted to find out. So we obeyed. Without question. Better to surrender your dignity than your mind." The executions were public now, held in the parade ground, every week, sometimes more often, for infractions both real and imagined: theft, insubordination, insufficient zeal. The charges didn't matter. The spectacle did. Helvek wanted us to see, to understand that this could be us, at any moment, for any reason. The condemned would be marched out, hands bound, heads down, lined up against the wall. Helvek would read the charges himself, his voice echoing across the assembled regiment. Then he'd raise his bolt pistol and fire, one by one, methodical, precise, no emotion whatsoever, just the crack of gunfire, the spray of blood, the thud of bodies hitting the ground. We were forced to watch, ordered to bear witness, forbidden from looking away. The enforcers would patrol the ranks. If you closed your eyes, if you showed distress, you'd join the condemned. So we watched our brothers die, watched the light leave their eyes, watched the pool of blood spread across the ferrocrete, and we felt nothing, or told ourselves we felt nothing, because feeling was dangerous. Grief was weakness, horror was doubt, and doubt was death. After each execution, we'd be dismissed, returned to our duties like nothing happened, like we hadn't just witnessed murder, but it stayed with us. In the quiet moments, in the dark, the faces of the dead, the sound of gunfire, the smell of blood and propellant, it accumulated, layered, a weight on our souls that grew heavier each day. Some couldn't bear it. Private Yellen tried to desert, slipped out during a patrol, thought he could make it to the refugee camps beyond the city, start over, find freedom. They caught him within an hour. The enforcers knew the instant he left. They'd been waiting for someone to try. They brought him back, but they didn't execute him. Not immediately. They put him in a cage, in the center of the parade ground, left him there for 3 days. No food, no water, no shelter. The sun beat down. The cold nights froze him. We walked past that cage every day, saw him deteriorate, saw him beg, plead, promise anything for release. On the 3rd day, Helvek finally shot him. "Desertion," he announced, "is the ultimate betrayal. Remember this." We remembered. How could we forget? The man I used to be would have been horrified, would have raged against this injustice, would have done something, but that man was gone, ground away by exhaustion and fear and endless violence. What remained was a shell, a thing that wore my face and followed orders, a thing that had learned the most important lesson: survival means surrender, not to the enemy, to this, to the system that was supposed to protect us, but that had become the thing we feared most. I went through my days like a ghost, performing my duties automatically, training the new replacements, leading patrols, running drills, all of it mechanical, hollow. At night, I'd lie in my bunk, listen to the sermons from the loudspeakers, listen to the quiet sobbing from other bunks, and I'd think about ending it, Just one last round under the chin. Quick. Final. Over. But I never did. Not because I wanted to live, but because even that choice had been taken from me. Suicide was forbidden, counted as desertion. They'd punish your entire squad if you tried. So even in death, I'd hurt the people around me, trap them in my failure. No escape, no release, just endless grinding existence. Under Helvek's boot, under his rules, his cruelty, under the lash that never stopped falling. That's what life had become. Not living, just surviving, 1 hour at a time, one inspection at a time, one execution at a time, waiting for it to be over, knowing it never would be. Not while Helvek commanded, not while the Imperium blessed his methods, not while we remained too broken to resist. This was my reality now. This was all our reality. And the worst part? The absolute worst part? I was getting used to it. The horror was becoming normal. The cruelty routine. I was adapting, accepting, becoming exactly what he wanted. A tool, an instrument, something without will or thought, just obedience. And I hated myself for it, hated what I was becoming, but I was too tired to fight it, too afraid to resist, too broken to care. So I kept going, kept surviving, kept surrendering pieces of myself until I didn't know how much was left, or if anything was left at all. 3 months under Helvek's command, 3 months of hell. The regiment had changed. 800 guardsmen when he arrived. Now, maybe 400 remained. The rest? Dead. Transferred. Disappeared. Helvek called it efficiency optimization. I called it murder, but only in my head, never out loud. His methods had evolved, become more refined, more calculated. He'd learned what broke us fastest, and exploited it systematically. The disciplinary ward had expanded, taken over an entire sub-level of the command complex. We called it the pit. Nobody who went down there came back the same. I learned what happened there eventually, from whispered conversations. Fragments. They'd break you physically first. Beatings, stress positions, sleep deprivation beyond even our normal hell. But that was just preparation. The real work was psychological. Interrogator probes attached to your skull, feeding questions directly into your mind. Do you doubt the commander? Do you question his orders? Do you deserve to serve the emperor? For hours, days, while you were drugged, disoriented, unable to tell what was real. And if you gave the wrong answer, if your biometric readings showed doubt, they'd start again, with more intensity, more pain, until you learned to think correctly, until your mind automatically generated the right responses, until you'd been reprogrammed. Sergeant Kaya hadn't been exaggerating. You really did come back different, changed at a fundamental level, your personality overwritten, your thoughts policed from the inside. It was more than torture. It was violation, the destruction of self, and Helvek used it constantly. Any sign of dissent? The pit. Any hint of independent thought? The pit. Any failure to show sufficient enthusiasm? The pit. We lived in terror of being sent down. Terror worse than death, because at least death was final. The pit left you alive, but took everything that made you human. Lieutenant Voran found out the hard way. He was good officer, fair, competent, cared about his men. That was his mistake. Caring. During a briefing, Helvek ordered an assault, another suicide mission, another pointless expenditure of lives. Voran didn't question it. He'd learned that lesson, but his face showed doubt. Just for a second, a flicker of concern. Helvek saw it. Lieutenant Voran, he said calmly, you seem troubled. No, sir, I'm ready to execute your orders. Your words say yes, your face says no. Which should I believe? Voran's throat worked. My words, sir. Always my words. I think you need time to reflect, to ensure your thoughts align with your speech. 3 days in the disciplinary ward. Consider it. educational. The enforcers dragged Voran away. He didn't resist, didn't protest, just went quietly, like a man walking to his execution. 3 days later, he returned. Physically, he was intact. No visible injuries, no scars, but his eyes were wrong, empty, glassy, like looking into a doll's face. At the next briefing, Helvech tested him. Lieutenant Voran, your assessment. Your plan is perfect, sir. Any potential issues? None, sir. Your wisdom is absolute. And if I ordered you to execute your own men, I would do so immediately, sir, without hesitation. They exist to serve your will, sir. As do I. Helvech smiled. Excellent. You may sit. Voran sat. Perfectly straight. Perfectly still. Not a man anymore. A puppet. I wanted to vomit. But I kept my face neutral, kept my thoughts hidden, because showing emotion meant joining Voran. The executions changed too, became more elaborate, more theatrical. Helvech was refining his methods there as well. Simple bolt pistol executions were too quick, too merciful. Now he used different methods, depending on the crime. For desertion, hanging, slow strangulation, minutes of kicking and gasping. While we watched, for theft, flogging unto death, hundreds of lashes with a shock whip, until there was nothing left but meat. For insubordination, creative punishments. I watched him seal a man in a barrel, fill it with water, drown him slowly over 30 minutes, all because the man had sighed during formation. One sigh, 30 minutes of drowning. The worst were the ones who broke during punishment, who begged, pleaded, offered anything. Helvech would sometimes grant mercy, stop the punishment, offer clemency, but only if they'd do something first. Guardsman Pell, he'd say, your pain can end. Simply tell me who else shares your doubts, who else questions, who else wavers. And Pell, desperate, would give names. Real or invented, it didn't matter, just to make the pain stop. Then Helvech would execute him anyway. Traitors do not earn mercy, he'd explain, only the opportunity to fail one last time. The cruelty was the point. Not discipline, not order. Cruelty for its own sake, to break us down completely, to make us complicit in our own destruction. We had to sign documentation for every punishment, every execution, every disciplinary action, witness statements, confirming we'd observed the proceedings, confirming they were necessary and just. Our signatures validated his atrocities, made us part of them. If we refused to sign, we'd join the condemned. So we signed, every time, with shaking hands and dead eyes. We signed our names to murder, to torture, to the systematic destruction of our own. And each signature took something from us, some small piece of our humanity, until we weren't sure how much remained. The commissars were supposed to prevent this, to provide oversight, balance, to protect guardsmen from tyrannical commanders. But Helvech had dealt with them quickly. Commissar Reeve had tried to intervene, cited regulations, protested the excessive discipline. Helvech accused him of undermining morale, of spreading defeatism, and shot him, right there in the command center. No trial, no investigation, just an execution. The other commissars learned fast. They stopped protesting, stopped questioning, started avoiding Helvech entirely. Some requested transfers, others simply disappeared. Within 6 weeks, there were no commissars left, just Helvech and his enforcers. Absolute authority, unchecked. The Departamento Munitorum didn't care. Our casualty rates were high, yes, but we were achieving objectives, taking territory, eliminating enemies. The cost didn't matter to them, only results. And Helvech delivered results, written in our blood. I became numb to it eventually. Had to. The alternative was madness. I stopped seeing the condemned as people, stopped hearing their screams, just went through the motions, watched the execution, signed the form, returned to duty. Mechanical, automatic, the only way to survive. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, the numbness would crack, and I'd remember that these were my brothers, my sisters, people I'd fought beside, bled with, now dead because of arbitrary cruelty, because Helvech enjoyed it. That's what I realized eventually. He wasn't following orders from above, wasn't implementing some grand strategy. He was doing this because he wanted to, because he enjoyed watching us break, enjoyed the power, the control, enjoyed being a god in a small, terrible world. Some men are broken by power, others are revealed by it. Helvech was the second type. This was who he'd always been. The Imperium had just given him an opportunity, given him us, to use, to break, to destroy. And we had no recourse, no appeal, no hope, just endless suffering, until we died or he tired of us. I thought about killing him. Everyone did. Late at night, we'd whisper about it, how we could do it. Sniper during a formation, explosive in his quarters, knife in the dark. But it was fantasy. He was too well guarded, too paranoid. His enforcers surrounded him constantly, checked his food, swept his rooms. And even if we succeeded, even if we killed him, the Imperium would send worse, would execute us all for the crime, would make examples of our families. So we did nothing, just survived, day by day, torture by torture, execution by execution, becoming something less than human, something hollowed out and reformed, into the shape Helvech wanted. Perfect obedience, perfect compliance, perfect surrender. That's what he was building, not an army, a machine made of broken flesh. And we were the components, replaceable, expendable, designed to function until we failed, then discarded. That was our purpose now. That was our fate. And we'd accepted it, because the alternative was the pit, or the execution ground, or madness. So we chose to become machines, chose to stop feeling, chose to let him win, because winning meant survival, even if survival meant losing ourselves, even if it meant becoming the monsters that we'd once sworn to fight. The enemy came on a cold morning. 6 months into Helvech's command, we were deployed to the Eastern Front, holding a defensive line against the Orc advance. 300 of us left now, half the regiment gone. The survivors were hollow-eyed, exhausted, more afraid of our own commander than the enemy. The line was poorly positioned. Any soldier could see it. Our flanks were exposed, no fallback positions. Supply lines stretched too thin. But Helvech had chosen this ground personally, and questioning his decisions meant death. So we dug in, built whatever fortifications we could, waited for the inevitable. I was positioned in a forward trench, 30 guardsmen under my command, good soldiers once, now just shadows, going through motions. Private Dannon was next to me, young, maybe 19. He'd been conscripted 2 months ago, thrown into this nightmare without preparation. "Lieutenant," he said quietly, "how many orcs are we expecting? Intelligence says 500. And there are. How many of us? 300. Oh." His voice was small, frightened. I should have reassured him, should have said something comforting. But I didn't have it in me anymore. "Just follow orders," I said. "Fire when commanded. Hold your position. And if things get bad, they will get bad." He didn't ask anything else, just checked his lasgun for the 10th time. The orcs appeared at dawn, not 500, thousands, a green tide flowing across the wasteland, bellowing, laughing, eager for violence. "Command," I voxed. "Enemy numbers exceed projections. Requesting artillery support." "Denied," Helvech's voice crackled back. "You have sufficient forces. But, sir, hold your position. Do not retreat. That is an order." The vox clicked off. I looked at my guardsmen. They'd heard the exchange, saw the orc numbers, understood what was coming. "Fix bayonets," I ordered. They obeyed. Mechanical, trained. The orcs hit our line like a tsunami. Overwhelming. Unstoppable. We fired into them, Lars rounds cutting down the front ranks, but there were too many. They absorbed our fire, kept coming, reached our trenches in minutes. Then it was close combat. Brutal. Desperate. I fired point blank into a orc's face. It roared and grabbed my arm, crushed the armor, broke bone. I drove my knife into its throat. It released me. Fell. 2 more took its place. Around me, guardsmen were dying, torn apart by crude weapons, crushed under massive green bodies, screaming, bleeding, breaking. Fall back, I shouted. Reform at the second line. Negative. Helvek's voice boomed through the vox. All units hold position. Anyone who retreats will be shot. But we couldn't hold. The orcs were everywhere, overwhelming us through sheer numbers. Half my guardsmen were already dead. The rest were fighting for their lives. No tactics, no strategy, just survival. Lieutenant, someone screamed. We have to pull back. I looked behind us. Helvek's enforcers were there, 100 meters back, bolt pistols raised, aimed at us. We were trapped. Orcs ahead, execution behind. Fight or die. D or die. I made a decision. Fall back, I ordered. That's a direct order. Move. The guardsmen didn't hesitate. They'd been waiting for permission. We ran, away from the orcs, toward the enforcers. The enforcers opened fire. Bolt rounds tore through retreating guardsmen. Bodies exploded. Blood sprayed. They were executing us, following Helvek's orders, killing us for retreating. Scatter, I yelled. The survivors dispersed, running in different directions, making themselves harder targets. I dove into a shell crater. Bolt rounds impacted around me, showering me with dirt and shrapnel. I heard the orcs behind me, heard the enforcers ahead, and I realized something. I was going to die here, not fighting the enemy. Killed by my own side, for the crime of survival. An explosion rocked the battlefield. Artillery. Finally. But not targeting the orcs, targeting the retreat routes. Helvek was bombarding us, herding us back toward the enemy, using artillery to force compliance. I couldn't believe it. Even for him, this was insane. The shells fell in a pattern, creating a killing field, forcing survivors back toward the orc lines. Some guardsmen turned back, chose to fight the orcs rather than artillery. They were cut down in seconds. Others tried to break through the enforcer line, executed before they got close. I stayed in my crater, head down, playing dead. Artillery shells screamed overhead. Orc roars grew closer. Bolt pistol fire continued. I was surrounded by death. All of it sanctioned, ordered, approved, by an Imperial commander, by one of our own. Hours passed. The fighting continued around me, gradually died down. The orcs had broken through, pushed past our line. The survivors. There weren't many, maybe 30 out of 300. I heard the vox crackle. All surviving units. Report to Rally Point Gamma. Immediately. I climbed out of the crater. My arm hung useless, broken. Blood covered my uniform. Some mine, most not. Other guardsmen emerged. From craters, trenches, rubble, all of us wounded, bleeding, traumatized. We limped toward the rally point, a cleared area behind the former line. Helvek was there, standing on a transport, looking down at us. His uniform was spotless, not a mark on him. We formed up. 33 survivors, 10% of our strength. Helvek surveyed us with cold eyes. Pathetic, he said simply. The enemy broke through your line. They are now advancing on our supply depot. Because of your failure, someone in the ranks spoke. You didn't give us artillery support. You shot us when we retreated. You killed your own men. Silence fell. Everyone turned to look. It was Private Dannon, the young conscript, standing there, accusing, defiant. Helvek turned his gaze on him. Step forward. Dannon did, trembling but determined. What is your name? Private Dannon, sir. Private Dannon. You speak of artillery support. Did you request it properly? The lieutenant did. It, sir. And it was denied because you had sufficient forces. We were outnumbered 10-1. Numbers are irrelevant. Only obedience matters. You ordered us to die. Helvesh pulled his bolt pistol, shot Dannon in the chest. The round detonated. Dannon's torso exploded. His body crumpled. Just like that. Over. Helvesh holstered his weapon. Anyone else have complaints? Silence. Complete. Total. I thought not. He consulted a data slate. According to my projections, you should have held for 6 hours. You held for 3. Unacceptable performance. He gestured to his enforcers. Half rations for all survivors. Extra duty for 1 week. And mandatory re-education sessions. Perhaps you'll learn to fight better. He was punishing us. For surviving his incompetence. For failing to die in sufficient numbers. Dismissed. We dispersed. Numb. Beyond shock. Beyond horror. Just empty. Back at the barracks, we sat in silence. 32 of us. All that remained. Someone started crying. Quiet, broken sobs. No one comforted them. We didn't have comfort left to give. He's trying to kill us, a voice said. It was Corporal Vess, grey-haired. 25 years service. He's not trying to win the war. He's trying to kill us. We know, I said. So what do we do? The question hung in the air. What could we do? We'd already tried obeying. Didn't work. Fighting well made no difference. Surviving was punished. Dying was mandatory. We can't fight the orcs and him, someone said. We'll all be dead in a week. We're already dead, another replied. Just waiting for it to be official. I looked at them, my surviving guardsmen, broken, traumatized, hopeless, and I made a decision, one I should have made months ago. We need to talk, I said, somewhere private. We gathered in a storage room, away from the loudspeakers. The enforcers, somewhere we could speak freely, for the first time in months. He's killing us, I said. We all know it. The question is, what do we do about it? Nothing, Vess said. What can we do? We can survive. How? By dying slower? By not dying at all. The words hung there. Everyone understood what I meant, what I was suggesting. That's mutiny, someone whispered. That's treason. Maybe, I said. Or maybe it's self-defense. The Imperium sent him, I interrupted. The Imperium authorized this. The Imperium doesn't care if we live or die. So why should we care what the Imperium thinks? It was the most treasonous thing I'd ever said. 6 months ago, I'd have executed someone for saying it. Now it felt like truth. The only truth that mattered. What are you proposing? Vess asked. I took a breath. I'm proposing we stop following his orders. We stop fighting his war. We stop dying for his ego. And we start fighting for ourselves. Against him, if necessary. The room was silent. Everyone processing what I'd said, what it meant. Finally, someone spoke. I'm in. Then another. Me too. One by one, they agreed. All 32 of us, united by desperation, by the understanding that death was coming anyway, might as well choose how. This doesn't happen tonight. I said, we need a plan. A moment. We wait for the right opportunity. And then we take our lives back. Or we die trying. They nodded, resolved. We'd crossed a line, become something different, not loyal Imperial guardsmen anymore. Something else. Survivors, rebels, traitors. The labels didn't matter. What mattered was choice. For the first time in months, we had a choice. And we chose us. Over the Imperium. Over Helvesh. Over everything we'd been taught. It was terrifying. It was liberating. It was necessary. Because we'd finally learned the truth. The Imperium didn't deserve our loyalty. Helvesh didn't deserve our obedience. They'd never earned it. They'd just demanded it. And we'd given it. Out of fear. out of conditioning, but fear has limits, and we'd reached ours. Now came the waiting, the planning, the preparation for what came next. Whatever that would be, we didn't know if we'd succeed, didn't know if we'd even survive the attempt, but we knew one thing: we weren't dying on our knees anymore. If death was coming, we'd meet it standing, fighting, finally free.